what has happened in your life? What are the big things that have happened in your life? And how did you react? And what were you feeling? And what brings you excitement? When you go back through your whole life, where were you really excited? Where did you lose track of time because you were just feeling joyful?
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring and influential guests who are making their mark on the world and contributing to the common good. Contributing to the common good, even in the smallest of ways, is one of the scientifically proven ways we can age with vitality and deep contentment. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager. My goal is to share optimism about aging and introduce you to guests who will excite and inspire you to share your own gifts and talents with the world. To find out more about this podcast, my web courses, and my brand new book, Not Just Chatting, How to Become a Master Podcast Interviewer, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, you can sign up for my monthly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get behind-the-scenes looks at my interviews and other fun tidbits. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker. Find out more at judybanker.com. Ever wonder what the host of Zestful Aging does when she's not podcasting? Creating one-of-a-kind earrings, of course. I've just opened an Etsy shop called Zestful Design, no S, and it showcases my fun, comfortable, and zesty polymer earrings. These earrings are fun to make and fun to wear. So check out my new shop, Zestful Design, on Etsy. Well, I've got my tired little loyal Jack Russell Sparky right by my side, so let's begin. My next guest asks the question, what if we thought of retirement as a kind of graduation? Emily Harman is a trailblazer and part of the 6th class of women to graduate from the U.S. Naval Academy. Recognized as a role model, she served as a company officer and leadership instructor in the U.S. Naval Academy. But somehow she got lost along the way. The responsibilities of being a career woman and mother drowned out any dreams she may have had about the future she really wanted. So eventually she became a coach so she could help other women find themselves in the second half of life. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm excited to be here. And Pearl, my dog, says hi to Sparky.
Oh, wow. I love that. I'm so surprised at how many guests I have who either also have a dog right beside them on their lap or a cat. I thought I was unusual, but apparently not. So that's lovely. So I was so interested in your history, Emily, as a naval officer, and I imagine that that's a very intense career. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like?
Definitely. It's very intense. When I was 17 is when I decided that that's where I wanted to go to college, to the Naval Academy. And that decision ended up kind of determining the next 38 years of my life. I went to the Naval Academy for 4 years, and then I was an officer for 7, active duty. And then I got out of the Navy. I stayed in the Naval Reserves, but I got out of the Navy, and my full-time job was working as a civilian for the Navy. And throughout most of my career, I was a single parent. I had gotten a divorce from my children's father, who was verbally abusive, and I had, kind of some challenges raising my children. I talk about that on my podcast. And, it just seemed like I kept achieving at work, and I kept moving up, and I ended up getting my last job. I was the equivalent of a 2-star admiral as a senior executive, but there was still just something missing. And I had forgotten how to dream. All of my dreams got buried under a mound of responsibilities. And I decided there's I want to go see what's next. I want to have time to spend with my parents. So at age 56 is when I decided to graduate or retire. And actually, my pamphlet says, come to Emily's graduation at the Pentagon Hall of Heroes. I mean, definitely called it a graduation because I was so excited. I felt like I was graduating onto what I didn't know was a lot of self-discovery.
I see. I see. Do you remember kind of I don't know what the best way to describe it, sort of internal whisperings that you had lost yourself and that you were doing this fantastic job, but something was missing. How did you determine that?
Well, like the job, even though I moved around to kind of different jobs, it was all in the area of acquisition and government contracting. And some of the same issues kept coming around. So there weren't new challenges. I mean, they were kind of new challenges, but very similar to the, challenges I had had before. And it wasn't as exciting and fulfilling to me. So I kind of felt that my energy level was lower and I was traveling a lot. So work kind of started to become a burden, I think, is what I really felt. And I was traveling a lot and my left hip hurt really badly. So when I graduated, I was in a lot of pain in my hip. I was just not in good physical shape. Whatever I wanted, I never got to because if you, as a coach, you do the wheel of life balance thing, and my life was completely unbalanced. It was all work.
When you say wheel of life, can you explain that a little bit?
Well, if you just picture like a wheel, and life isn't all about work, you also have relationships. You also have, the financial aspect of your life. You have your family, you have your children, you have your friends, you have your significant other, you have fun. All those things,
like a pie chart?
Like a pie chart that are supposed to be your life, Mine was a lot work and stress. And I thought the stress was the job. But actually, once I graduated and I started working with other coaches and I started doing the inner work, which means going inside myself, not looking for outside circumstances to change, but looking at me, what can I change within myself? I learned some things about myself that I kind of intuitively knew, but I didn't really. It was what was causing me stress. I kind of intuitively knew it, but I didn't really know it until I took this assessment. It's called Emergenetics, and it showed that, I'm in the 9th percentile. So 91% of people are more data inclined than me. I can't stand data. I can't stand doing my finances. I can't. And as a contracting officer and working for the federal government, especially the Department of Defense, it's all about data. You have to provide data for all your answers. And I'm more intuitive. And so
oh no, yeah, that's a mismatch.
Right. It was a mismatch. And as a contracting officer, you're doing spreadsheets all the time. I didn't like that. And I just kind of thought that, well, this job is stressful. But really, I was stressed more so because I didn't really love what I was doing. And it wasn't really a fit. It doesn't mean it's wrong, but that is not my strength. I'm more intuitive. I'm more conceptual. I like creativity. So in my last job, I had more of an ability to be creative, which is one of the reasons I really liked that job. And then when I graduated, within a month after my graduation, my daughter called and told me that her dad has cancer. So I had 2 children with the father, and he's the one that I had left when my kids were 7 and 4 for verbal abuse. And since I've done a lot of inner work, I recognize it takes 2, so wasn't all just him, but he was verbally abusive. He had cancer, and within 2 weeks after that, he was paralyzed in both arms from the cancer, and then he died 5 months later. And I helped take care of him, so did my daughter, and I saw him pass away with regrets. I knew that he, even though he didn't talk about it a lot, I knew he was feeling deep inside. He had a lot of time to think, laying in bed, being awake at night, in pain, that he wasn't happy with the way he had lived his life. And I recognized in myself some things that I wasn't happy with about myself. And I vowed, I want to help. I want to create a life I love living. Because it was the first person that was really close to me that had passed away, besides a grandparent that's older,
I see. Right before your eyes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it just changed my life. And I saw he was 64 when he when he died, and he had not retired yet. And I have his files in my office next to me, and he has so many 3 or 4 files labeled retirement. And he has different things that he's going to do when he retired. He didn't get to.
What a lesson that must have been.
A huge lesson. When something bad happens, quote unquote bad in our life, we can, look for the gift or the opportunity. He gave my children a gift of really valuing life and me as well. And then other people, because of my coaching at Spread and what I talk about. You talked about earlier in your show about, helping others, giving back. That's what I try to do. So he's impacting a lot of people.
Wow, the timing was really important.
Yes, very. And impacting people throughout the world. I know you have listeners, you said, in 101 different countries. So by being on other podcasts and in some of the work I do, I reach people all across the world and spreading that message. And if it just helps somebody think, well, what would I love to do in my life? A lot of times we think, well, what would I love? What are my dreams? It takes a while. It takes a lot of clearing and stuff of thoughts and changing your thought patterns and looking at your life differently to really come up with what you would love. And then our brain will say, yeah, you'd love that, but that's not realistic. You can't do that. But what if you could?
Limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Today's episode is sponsored by Kindra. Kindra is a self-care company that makes estrogen-free essentials designed by women for women to support people who experience the hormonal changes of menopause. Their line of menopause essentials includes a daily vaginal lotion that dramatically relieves vaginal dryness and 3 daily supplements, all thoughtfully designed to target and relieve the symptoms of menopause, including hot flashes, brain fog, mood swings, and more. Each of these products is backed with years of research and development to identify the most potent and effective formulations. Visit our Kindra, OurKindra.com, using code ZESTFUL20 for 20% off your first purchase. And I'd love to hear how it works for you.
How do you work with people, Emily, who come to you and say, I'm about ready for my graduation and I have no idea what's next? I don't even know how to start thinking about it.
Yeah, I work with them because, I'll tell you some things that I do, but I do it because that's what I went through. So first off is just like, there's a few things that you can do. You can really think back to what you really loved doing as a child. There's also some assessments you can take that kind of come up with what your strengths are. Like the one I told you, the emergenetics. There's the Enneagram. There's things like that. You can also look at kind of go back and plot out your life. What has happened in your life? What are the big things that have happened in your life? And how did you react? And what were you feeling? And what brings you excitement? When you go back through your whole life, where were you really excited? Where did you lose track of time because you were just feeling joyful? And so those are just some examples. And it took me a while to figure it out. Like, I became a coach and a podcast host. A lot of people were telling me, Emily, because of your past career, you should be a consultant in government contracting. That when I think of that, it did not bring any good energy to me. Very little.
So you're talking about not necessarily a thought process, but something you might feel in your body.
Yes, a feeling process, which one of the reasons I graduated earlier too is because I could tell you I was happy or sad, and then a coach would or a counselor would say, "Where do you feel in your body?" I don't know. I know what I think. I don't know what I feel or where I feel it in my body. That took a while to figure out for me because I had been, actually when Bruce passed away, my way of dealing with stress and was to just stay busy, keep pushing and stay busy. So I was busy, 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 busy. I never felt really the divorce because, the kids were with me pretty much most of the time, all the time. And a lot of the decisions fell on me. So I just had a lot of pressure.
You didn't have the luxury.
I didn't have the luxury so when he died, all of those feelings came crashing down at once that I hadn't felt yet.
Wow, what an experience.
Oh my gosh, that first year was traumatic. That's why I wasn't able to start coaching right away because I was just doing a lot of work on myself, dealing with grief. It was very hard. It's still hard. There's, once I thought, well, now I'm fixed. I've figured it all out. And then there's always something else that you're figuring out.
Right.
But,
work in progress.
Yeah, work in progress. But, it took me, I remember I was so used to hyperachieving that when I graduated and was able to, I kept busy. I didn't know how to slow down. I thought that it would automatically happen when I retired. I thought that I would automatically start being able to feel again and that I'd be able to get in the best shape because I wouldn't have as much work to do. But I have a really tough boss. Her name is Emily, and she pushed me, and I had to figure out how to slow down. I didn't know how.
I see. Yeah, it's such a, that particular style is tricky because the world we live in really rewards that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm crazy busy. Oh, wow, you must be important.
Right.
And off we go. And I can see that. It's more challenging to really slow down and let some of those thoughts and feelings kind of percolate.
Very hard for me. I had a coach who said, "I want you to, meditate for 40 days straight." And then the form that she wanted me to fill out said, "Now, how much time a day do you have to meditate?" Well, I have all day because I was graduated, right? I mean, not all day, and it had like 15 minutes, an hour, half an hour, whatever. And the hyperachiever in me wanted to say, well, an hour. But I picked the 15 minutes because I knew I wouldn't do an hour. And then, for 40 days straight. So, I kept seeing her every other week. She'd say, "What day are you on?" I'd say 1, 2, well, why? I said, "You don't understand. I'm really busy. I have a lot to do."
What was meditation like for you in the beginning?
It was like, I don't know how to do it right, whatever. And so, she gave me some Kundalini yoga kind of meditations, which is moving. So you're not just sitting there because I did not know how to sit with myself. I didn't know. I couldn't do it. And it took a lot of practice to do it. But now I start off my mornings doing that. And another thing is, another thing to think about as you're trying to figure out, what would you do when you retire, is to really, we really need to learn to listen to our longings and discontent, because sometimes they're just a quiet whisper, but I would really love that, but we just poo-poo it and move on and don't really, we don't feel like we deserve it, or we don't feel like, it could happen. But what if it could? Those limiting beliefs that we have really hold us back.
I find that for things that I truly love, one of them is podcasting, there's this feel of ease and sort of natural fit that it's not even, list the 5 reasons you love podcasting. I mean, I could do that, but it doesn't get at how it just feels just a perfect fit. That's all I can say. It's such a joy for me. And I think that that's maybe the kind of thing you're talking about, is finding something that you don't have to explain to yourself or justify, or it's not a cognitive thing. It just feels like, yeah, I've always wanted to do this, and it feels so just deeply delightful.
Right. And you have to listen to yourself, not what other people would say. Like my mom's like, I don't understand why you're doing all this stuff. Why don't you just do pottery all day, which is what she does. But she's 78. And so, somebody could, if you have a pleaser saboteur like I do, you can be like, oh, yeah, why am I doing this? Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just be, retired and not doing this coaching. But you have to be able to listen to yourself, because what my mother is really saying is she wouldn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't want to do it or I shouldn't want to do it. And just because she doesn't want to do it doesn't mean that it can't feel good to me. And she doesn't say it in a negative way, but if you tell your friends, I want to leave my job, or I want to do this, or I want to do something different with my life, and I'm going to go work 3 days a week instead of 5. And I know it'll be a loss of income, but this is what I'd really want. Your friends might say, you're crazy. Why would you do that? That's because they wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Do you, as part of your coaching, do you have people do writing exercises?
Yeah, what I have is I have kind of a, it's an 8-step process, but it's not really like cookie cutter. Not everyone, just goes through the 8 steps, but I have like a workbook for each step, and the workbook, and then we meet every other week or sometimes once a week. But the workbook is a way to kind of get your juices flowing, to get you thinking, what are your values, to do that wheel of life and some other things. And then we don't necessarily, it's not homework. You don't have to turn it into me. You do what feels right for you. That's going to help you with what you're trying to accomplish in your life. Mm-hmm. And then in the discussion, those workbooks lead people to come up with, new epiphanies, or, new ideas, or, for example, there was somebody that I was coaching that she was going to graduate in a couple years, and she really wanted to leave a legacy, and she wanted to be thoughtful about legacy at work, and she wanted to be thoughtful about where she wanted to be in 2 years. How sometimes you can set a goal and then you never get there, or in 2 years from now you're doing the same thing you were doing 2 years ago and you don't even know how that happened. So one of her things was to be really in shape when she graduated in 2 years. Because she wanted to do hiking and all that stuff. So she kind of laid out a plan of, set a vision for what she wanted to do when she retired, graduated. And she laid out some things that she wanted to do over the next 2 years to get ready. And she wanted me to look at the list. And this is just an example. Mm-hmm. Well, what was not on the list? She said, when she gave me the list, she said, I haven't put the working out in there, the fitness stuff in there yet, but I'm going to. And that's a pattern, right? Like, she wants to have fitness be a priority, but she's leaving it out. She'll fit that in later. And so sometimes we don't see things like that in our lives. It takes working with somebody else to say, is that a pattern where your physical fitness always falls by the wayside?
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing that it sounds like you get to see what they're saying and then what they're doing, and call attention to how does this support what you say you want to do.
Right. And my coaches do that to me. If anyone's looking for a coach, always get one that, interview them, and get one that is investing in themselves because, we all need coaches, in my opinion, or not need, but it behooves us all to work with coaches, because as we change ourselves, our reality changes, our world around us changes, because the way we react to things or the way we behave in certain situations is different, and then others around us react differently too. So if we're ever saying, if only those employees would change, which I've been in that situation, or if only this would change, or if only that would change, instead of looking externally, look internally about what within you, because that's the only thing you can control. Or not, you can work words. On. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your 2-year plan?
My 2-year plan. So I've just started implementing it. One is to, and it's not like detail. You need to have a good vision of where you're headed. You need to have a picture of it, like a snapshot in your brain, and you need to feel, what you want to feel in 2 years. Where is it that you're going to be, and what do you want to feel? So one of my snapshot in my mind that shows that everything that I'm working on I've done, which is, getting more clients or helping more people, writing a book, that shows that I've accomplished that. My snapshot in my mind is a picture of a house that's on the ocean front, that I rent for a month, like an Airbnb, but a really nice one that I rent for a month. And I have I have the first week and the last week are just me and Pearl, my dog. She has to go, right? And then in between, my family comes and visits. So, and I can, imagine, and I look at it every day. I have a picture of the house that, that resembles the house that I would want. This is the kind of picture the house that I want. And I look at it every day. And in 2 years or sooner, I will be able to replace that picture of that house with the actual house that I rented for that amount of time. And that shows that what I'm doing to help other people has helped me. And it shows that I'm creating space for myself, that I've, in some ways, to overcome some of my limiting beliefs that I have about money. Should I give my coaching for free? Should I do that? You'll find that a lot of coaches have some issues with money. And because I worked for the Navy my whole life, I never had to, quote unquote, sell anything. The Navy told me what I was worth. They paid me. It's not like you negotiate your salary or anything. They tell you you're this rank, this is the amount of money you get.
I see, yes.
So I've worked a lot, do I really need that house? Is that greedy? I've worked through a lot of money issues. So that picture of that house, that snapshot in my mind, how I'm feeling, I'm smelling my coffee as I'm sitting on the porch, and the ocean breeze is going across me, and Pearl's sitting at my feet, and, my kids are there, and my grandkids are there. That snapshot in my mind is a snapshot that indicates that I've accomplished what I want to accomplish, what I want to accomplish in the next 2 years. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. So this idea of having a very clear goal, very specific.
Yes.
Sounds important.
Yes. Yeah, it is. That picture's on my mantle of that house, but and when I actually am there and feeling that, I'm going to take a picture of me and my kids and my family in front of the house that I rent. And it would be, so I have also intermediate snapshots. I had one of when I get my coach's certification, it's a picture of me with my certificate and, just a big smile on my face because I've done that. Because that coach's certification in some of the programs that I'm doing, I have 2, is something that helps me get to where I want to go, because I need a certification in order to do some of the coaching for companies or for the federal government. So, and then another one that I had in order for me to get to that house, because also when I'm at that house, I'm in a bikini and I have tight abs, right? So that bikini and tight abs tells me I got to start working out now, because it's not going to happen in 2 years if I don't, do something about it, right? So it's just things like that. And then in order for, I only want to do coaching 3 days a week. I want to have Monday and Friday off. It took me 2 years to come up with that in my head, to give myself permission for that to be the case. And so in order to do that, and because I already told you that I hate numbers and stuff, I was always putting off doing my company finances. So I invested in a bookkeeper, so I don't have to do it. And so I'm helping, someone else's career too. So I've also invested in a virtual assistant who helps me with some things. So how do I get to the point where I don't have to do everything? And investing in those people also requires my mental mindset on money to change, right? Because in some cases, I've invested in them before I'm making the amount of income that I really want to do before I invest in them. So
That's really interesting.
yeah, how do you send a signal to the universe that I'm serious, that I want to be the best coach I can be, that I want to do, help other people? How do I send that message to the universe? By starting to take the actions now.
Yeah, you're kind of laying out these, you're sort of forming this as you go.
Yeah. And you have you have snapshots. And so then that helped, pictures in your mind about how you're going to feel. I have a snapshot of me camping this fall in November, sitting by the fire, the cup of coffee, and I'm there Friday through Monday because I'm not working Friday and Monday. Right?
Oh, wow.
And
I notice coffee keeps coming
yeah,
up.
I guess I like coffee.
Are you a fan?
In the mornings, yeah, in the mornings.
Yeah, me too.
But I look at them every day so that when I make decisions on the tasks that I'm going to do during the day, they're aligned with that vision. And, just like when you say, well, I'd like to buy a red car. I don't see any red Toyotas out there on the road. I'm going to buy a red one. So I stand out. And then what do you start seeing? Red Toyotas, right? Because you haven't noticed them. But so now I'm telling my subconscious mind what I want. And it's going to help bring it to me. And I'm taking action every day, moving towards it. And I'm not stressed. I'm in flow. I'm also doing Tai Chi, and I'm taking a pottery class with my mom, and reading a lot, and I'm meditating, and I go swim. And so I'm not busting my butt to get to where I can rent that house for a month.
Wow, that's just such a beautiful idea of, really nailing down what it is that brings you joy and then being very intentional.
And going after it.
I mean, how often do we do strategic planning at work? We do that more often than not. And then, our goals at work and everything, at least I did. When do we ever do strategic planning for our personal lives? Not as much.
Right.
Right. Wow. Lots of stuff came together for you, it sounds like, to give you a unique perspective.
Yes, it did. I'm happy. Grateful. Gratitude is another thing to practice. Be grateful for what you have every day for your life.
Amen on that. Emily, where can people find out more about you and your work so they can check out some more of this visioning?
They should go to my website, which is Emily Harman, HARMAN.com. And from there, they can find links to where I am on Facebook, and they can find links to my podcast. And the other thing is to connect with me on LinkedIn. And I broadcast my Onward podcast, which is all about facing adversity, moving forward, and discovering ourselves along the way. I broadcast that live most Wednesday nights at 7:30. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll see that.
That's lovely. Yes, I've watched that, and it's I saw one where I think, wasn't there a terrible thunderstorm? And didn't you lose power? And it was very dramatic.
That was interesting because before we went live, I told the guests, look, we're going to have a thunderstorm here. If we lose connection, we'll just have to redo this. And I told the audience that too. We'll just have to reschedule it. So anyway, all of a sudden we're live. He's talking, and I hear this boom, a loud boom, and my computer crashed. Everything.
Oh.
So I tried calling him, and he didn't answer. So I just thought, well, let me just go back online, because about 3 minutes later, I got connection again, and he was still there talking. It was funny.
I saw. I had the same experience where I was talking to a guest who I knew I would never be able to get again. I was just holding my breath, and I look out my window, and it looks like, that kind of greenish gray, and you think, oh, this isn't good. And I just held my breath that we would be able to finish the interview. It was very nerve-wracking, not something that you learn about when you're, as what part of the podcast skill set.
No, that's not true. I don't know if you cover that in your book, but
Nope.
He was still talking, and the guests were watching, and so they're just like, "Yeah, Emily, you disappeared for a while, and I was back."
That's great.
I look forward to having you on my podcast, Nicole.
And I'm really excited to speak with you later next year, actually.
Yes.
So, well, it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us, Emily. It's very inspiring, and I think so many of our people in our audience will very much relate to this idea of losing yourself in your career and parenting and sort of the effort to find yourself again. It's just such an important message.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down, and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.